So, I work in corporate accounting. Not the glamorous Wall Street type, just a mid-sized firm in the city that handles bookkeeping and compliance for a bunch of regional businesses. It's not thrilling, but I've always liked the work. I get along with numbers better than I get along with most people. The office itself wasn't bad. Cubicles, fluorescent lights, the usual. The team was about 15 people, split between junior accountants, senior staff, and managers. For a while, things were smooth. I had decent co-workers, reasonable deadlines, and even a few good laughs during the long tax season. But then I ended up with a new manager. His name was Martin, and he turned out to be the kind of boss who made you question whether work could actually be hell on earth. Martin came from another office where, rumor had it, he'd been difficult to work with, which I later learned was corporate speak for people couldn't stand him. The first day he joined, he strutted in like he owned the place. He had this grating laugh that echoed across the whole floor, and this habit of reminding everyone that he had 2 decades of experience. At first, I thought, fine, maybe he's arrogant, but as long as he leaves me alone, I can deal. Spoiler, he didn't leave me alone. The first conflict came up when I requested vacation. Company policy was clear. 2 weeks notice minimum, and vacation couldn't be unreasonably denied. I booked a trip months earlier to visit my sister across the country. I sent Martin a request form, explained I'd be out for 5 business days, and figured that was that. 2 days later, he called me into his office. "Listen," he said, leaning back in his chair like a mob boss, "I don't think now is a good time for you to be taking vacation. We got deadlines." I reminded him that I'd put in the request before he even started. He gave me this smirk and said, "Well, I wasn't here then, was I? Consider this a new era." I walked out steaming, but I wasn't going to cancel my trip. I emailed HR to clarify the policy, and they confirmed in writing that as long as I'd given notice and coverage was arranged, managers couldn't deny vacation without cause. Armed with that, I told Martin I'd still be going. He didn't argue, but the look he gave me made my stomach twist. When I came back, my desk was a mess. Files were missing. Deadlines had been reassigned without my knowledge, and Martin claimed I'd left things in disarray. I spent a week untangling the chaos. It was clear he deliberately sabotaged my workload while I was gone. That was just the start. From then on, Martin scrutinized everything I did. If I finished early, he accused me of rushing. If I stayed late, he accused me of being inefficient. He started copying upper management on emails where he nitpicked my work. He'd forget to invite me to important meetings, then later scold me for not knowing updates. The real kicker came during year-end audits, our busiest season. We were swamped, working 10-hour days, and Martin decided it was the perfect time to test me. He handed me a reconciliation project that was usually split between 3 people and told me he wanted it on his desk by Friday. No excuses. I worked my ass off. I skipped lunches, stayed late, even came in on a Saturday. By Friday, I had it done, clean, accurate, triple-checked. I handed it to him, exhausted but proud. Monday morning, he stormed into my cubicle waving the report. "This is unacceptable," he barked. "Errors everywhere. Do you even know what you're doing?" My heart sank. I knew I'd checked it. I asked him to show me the errors, and he flipped through the pages pointing at mistakes. Except they weren't mistakes. They were edits he'd made. He'd gone into my work and deliberately changed formulas, flipped balances, even deleted entries. Then he tried to pin it on me. That was when I realized I needed to start covering my tracks more carefully. From that day forward, I kept backup copies of everything. If I emailed him a report, I also saved a timestamped copy to a private drive. If he gave me verbal instructions, I followed up with an email just to confirm you want me to. That way, there was a trail he couldn't deny. It turned out to be the smartest decision I've ever made. A few weeks later, Martin accused me in front of the whole team of missing a filing deadline. He said I'd been careless and cost the company credibility. Everyone looked at me like I'd just set the office on fire. But I calmly opened my laptop, pulled up the email chain, and showed that I'd submitted the filing to him 2 days early. The timestamp was right there. He'd sat on it. The room went silent. My coworkers stared at him, then at me. Martin's face turned red, and he muttered something about miscommunication before storming back to his office. That was the first crack in his armor. After that, my coworkers started sharing their own stories. Jenna from payroll admitted Martin had blamed her for a late vendor payment that he himself had approved. Carlos from auditing said Martin once told him to fudge numbers to make a client look better, then chewed him out when he refused. One by one, people realized this wasn't just me. Martin was toxic to everyone. I knew we had to do something, but Martin had seniority and a reputation for being results-driven. HR usually sided with managers unless there was overwhelming evidence. So I kept gathering. Every altered document, every contradictory instruction, every petty email, I saved them all. The breaking point came when Martin tried to screw me over on overtime. He'd been telling me to clock out at 5, then stay to finish urgent tasks. I did a couple of times, but then HR started sending me warnings for working unauthorized overtime. Sound familiar? I confronted Martin and he smirked. Well, policy's policy. You should know better. That's when I decided enough was enough. I set a trap. One night, Martin asked me to redo a client report after hours. I replied by email, "Sure, just to confirm, this overtime is approved?" He didn't reply, but I stayed late and saved the work. The next morning, HR tried the same routine. Another warning for unauthorized overtime. Except this time, I handed them the email thread, plus screenshots of Martin's after-hours texts. HR's demeanor changed instantly. They asked me to forward everything. I gave him a folder with weeks of evidence, his sabotage, his altered files, his contradictory instructions. They said they'd investigate and told me to keep it quiet. For the next 2 weeks, the office buzzed with rumors. Martin looked rattled, pacing around, snapping at people, disappearing into closed-door meetings with upper management. Then, one Monday, he was gone. Desk cleared, nameplate removed. The company announced he had resigned to pursue other opportunities. But we all knew better. The atmosphere in the office shifted overnight. People were lighter, happier, actually joking again. Jenna brought donuts the next day and called it our independence celebration. Even upper management seemed relieved. A month later, I got promoted to senior accountant. It wasn't just a title bump. It came with a pay raise and more autonomy. But the real reward was the validation. Martin had spent months trying to crush me, and in the end, his own schemes destroyed him. Looking back, I think Martin hated vacations because he hated the idea of people having control over their own time. He thrived on power games, making people feel like they owed him. But when he tried to play that game with me, I played back smarter. The lesson? Document everything. Cover your ass. And never let a toxic manager convince you you're crazy. Because sometimes the only thing standing between your career and their ego trip is a well-timed email. Martin thought he was untouchable. Turns out he wasn't even careful. Thank you so much for watching. Please make sure to like, subscribe, and enable notifications to not miss another upload.